Thank you guys so much for attending today. We're really excited to go through everything about the 2020 Holidays Strategy Guide webinar. As a note, my name is Mary Claire Hitson. I am the Senior Account Executive on our platform team. So if I've worked with you before, thank you so much for joining. If I haven't, it's so great to have you. Today, we're really going to be focusing on 4 key verticals that tend to see the most traction during the holiday season. And those are listed here. So retail, big box and grocery, restaurant, and then finally travel and tourism. At the end of the call, we'll have some time for Q&A, but like I just mentioned, if you have any questions throughout this webinar, feel free to use the Q&A section. I've got my lovely colleague, Evelyn, on the call too. She's part of our marketing team that helped put together these strategies and these this whole guideline. So if there's anything I can't answer, Evelyn's going to pop in from time to time, but we will have a dedicated section at the end of today's webinar for questions specifically. If you don't feel comfortable submitting a question or asking or anything like that, feel free to utilize the alias on the screen, @expert@groundtruth.com. And or if you're currently working with us, someone like myself, an account executive, and or your dedicated platform specialist are going to be more than happy to help answer the questions. So just contact us directly. Lastly, we will have a poll at the end of the webinar. Please fill this out. It helps us do better and learn from the things that we could potentially improve upon. Or if you just want to say that we did a fantastic job, that's cool too. Also, we will be sending out the 4 holiday strategy one-sheeters after the webinar to all attendees. So those that signed up and maybe couldn't join. I think that's going to be really helpful because all of the information that we're covering today is going to be cited on the one sheet. So you can see the source of where the data is pulled, whether that's through GroundTruth and or a third party that we're utilizing like an e-marketer. So as a preamble, I just want to set the stage and make it very known that it's very clear that 2020 has disrupted business as usual. So not only from a consumer standpoint, but also for brands and businesses alike. And we've all had to adapt to that. So whether that's changing our marketing strategies or our creative messaging, or as a consumer, how and when and where we're actually doing our shopping, it's not lost on us over here. So over the next half hour, we're going to focus on 4 areas within each of these aforementioned verticals. So some of those look like what to expect, what we expect to see this year based on historical trends. We're going to take a more in-depth look at the holiday shopper from 2019 and 2020. We're going to take a look back at 2019 behaviors and how they influence consumer behavior in 2020. And then we're also going to recommend strategies based on 3 different audience types per vertical that you can go in and target and create and formulate a plan to reach these audiences within Ads Manager, which is our self-serve platform. So moving right along into retail. Okay, and can everyone hear me? Just checking. Panelists, let me know if my volume's good or not good. Okay, great. Thanks, Evelyn. Okay, so we're getting started here with retail. Over the last several years, we've definitely seen a steady increase in the following areas. So mobile commerce, online shopping in general, but also buying online and then going and picking up in store. And the pandemic's really only accelerated the growth of these newer types of buying options because of stay-at-home orders and social distancing regulations, which have thwarted most consumers from spending time indoor or in public places rather. So while guardrails and regulations are going to continue to shift at both national and local levels, heading into these next several months, which are going to be colder in most places, there are some benefits of seeing this trend, these consumer behaviors shift, not only from in-store to online, but just kind of seeing a mix of both of those. So what do I mean by that? Really, because people are going to be taking more of a step in trying to figure out how they're going to go through and purchase things this year, whether that's online or like we're saying, buy online, pick up in store, we should take advantage of these new opportunities to connect with the core segments and personalize that messaging based on how consumers plan to shop. So it could be something like, I'm out and about. I know that I'm going to be making, a pie or my signature casserole. So maybe I stop into my my Walmart or my Target nearby, and throwing that dynamic distance overlay on top of that to let someone know that you're close to a location. Or if consumers are going to be shopping online, which we will see that being the case, sending them directly to the e-com website. So looking a little bit more at a closer look of the retail shopper this year, many do have plans to shop online, but also utilize that in-store pickup option. So some of these stats on here are going to say, so 45% of baby boomers are shopping online due to the pandemic. 75% of US shoppers who plan to shop this holiday will be shopping online more than in previous years. I don't think that's a surprise. And then 67% of shoppers said that they plan to confirm online whether an item is actually in stock before they go into store to purchase it. And I think that's really cool, because if you're trying to drive someone into your brick and mortar, that consumer that you're actually getting in front of and getting into that store location is there, and they're going to likely make that purchase, right? Because of that due diligence period beforehand. So yes, online shopping is definitely bound to see an increase. However, there are some age groups who will be more likely to shop in store. And so these are some advantageous ways that we can get in front of those types of audiences. So I did just mention that 45% of baby boomers are going to be shopping more online since the onset of the pandemic. Only 60% of this age group plans to do over half the shopping digitally this year. So that may seem like a large percentage, but it's only actually 14% behind the next age group of 18 to 25-year-olds, as well as 39 to 55-year-olds. Sorry, I'm pregnant, so I'm having a hard time breathing over here. Okay, so based on GroundTruth's historical visitation, we did see that Gen Z led the shopping pack to retail categories at a 16% above average pace in the 2019 season during the holidays. So we definitely see that this trend's probably going to reoccur here in 2020, and that this particular age group is going to continue to seek out that in-store shopping experience. And while last year, baby boomers did trail other brackets in this particular in-store shopping, we predict seeing a flip in that. We think that baby boomers are actually going to be your key audience for shopping in store, while millennials and Gen X are going to pivot more to digital shopping. Okay, so let's take a look at a few mentionable stats from 2019. So I just want to highlight the dates where we see an above average foot traffic in years past. So it's really not surprising. Black Friday, you're going to see a peak in visitation in 2019. Super Saturday, which was the 21st last year, you're going to see a peak in visitation as people are doing that last minute shopping. However, other dates that I think are really interesting that pop were December 14th and then December 23rd. So we're also seeing a higher index of in-store visitation lift, again, as consumers are going out making those last minute purchases. For Black Friday in particular, while a third of those who did or do typically shop in store on Black Friday say that they're not going to do that this year, according to a survey that Google put out, we do still plan to see the following retail categories. So over here on the right, see a pop compared to a holiday average. So these make sense, right? Luxury, electronics, kids, jewelry, malls, pretty standard for where we're shopping to gift, right, during the holiday season. Something else really interesting is that while store visitation is highest in November and December, shoppers actually spend 3% less time in store for the retail vertical during this time, these 2 months, than in the prior 2 months in September and October. And I think what we found is that a potential cause for that is that a lot of shoppers are doing some browsing and researching prior to going in store and finding those items in store. So they're shopping online, trying to figure out if they're going to be there, and then going in and making those final purchases. So they're not really doing as much browsing. They're in there and they're on a mission. Cool. So what do we do with this information on hand? So like I mentioned, we have broken out for each vertical 3 different types of shoppers. So for retail, we really have 3 that stick out based on trends that we've seen. So you have the holiday planner, the convenience-driven shopper, which you're going to see that one echoed across several different verticals, and then the last-minute gifter. So what you're looking at, and again, we're going to be sending out the holiday webinar one-sheeters. So all of this information you'll have in hand after this webinar. So you can then go and apply these strategies within Ads Manager. But as a note, each type of shopper is going to require a unique set of targeting strategies to reach them in those moments and in the locations where they're going to be most engaged. So for example, with the convenience-driven shopper, the idea to reach them is when they're close to a retailer, to inform them of that special or their options to buy. And with a last-minute gifter, you're going to showcase that messaging while they're on premise, as an example, to let them know about that deal while they're there in real time. Okay, so moving along, let's look at big box grocery. What do we expect to see? So on par with retail, this vertical is also seeing growth in mobile commerce and online shopping and that buying online and in-store pickup. And while consumers who are leveraging these new ways to buy are going to continue to do so, shopping online or doing that mobile commerce, there's still going to be they're still likely to pair them with their normal in-store behavior. So doing a little bit of mix of both. In fact, this stat here says that those who make an in-store visit to a big box store after being exposed to a GroundTruth ad are actually 25% more likely to make a purchase from that retailer specifically, either in store and or online. Shifting, looking at the holiday shopper, according to Numerator, which is a third-party marketing research firm, 60% of consumers plan to make fewer trips to stores overall this holiday season. So looking at last year's visitation trends, shoppers spent 4% more time in big box and warehouse stores in the months of November and December compared to the 2 months prior. So this is different than what we just saw in retail, where we saw a decrease in time spent in store during these months. That's just kind of an interesting thing, maybe because it's going to take a little bit longer to make that shopping list, right? Or because we're buying more products and shopping and making more meals. I think that actually makes sense. Locale will also play another role this year. 20% of shoppers surveyed said that they're going to be visiting stores closer to home. And that's likely because that's been their route for the last several months, less exposure, staying in kind of that bubble, right, in the community. So whether you're within the 53% of internet users who are expected to make an online grocery order, or those who do plan to shop in store, eMarketer said that in forecast that food and beverage will grow 58.5% year over year and claim that top spot at the fastest growing e-com category this year. Pretty nifty. Awesome. So let's look at 2019 shopping behavior. So we're going to look at Thanksgiving, and then we're going to take the same kind of information and look at it for the winter holidays as well. So what happened last year during Turkey Day? In line with eMarketer's forecast, leading up to Thanksgiving, we're seeing trips to food and beverage related categories spike, right? I mean, that's because consumers are getting ready and food prepping. Visitation to other categories also peak the day before Thanksgiving, and some of those include liquor stores, par for the course if you're having family over and you need that whiskey, if you're me, grocery, warehouse clubs, and pharmacy as well. The charts over here to the right are showcasing highest above average foot traffic the week leading up to Thanksgiving. So that's for the big box clubs. And then the day before Thanksgiving for grocery stores. So a little tidbit, with food being the center of Thanksgiving as a holiday, traffic to stores that have more of a robust grocery selection are going to see more of that traffic volume. So for example, going to a super Target over a Target, or going to a Walmart Supercenter over just a Walmart. So like I mentioned, we're going to look at these same kind of stats for the winter holidays. So similar trends are being seen to categories for the week leading up to Christmas compared to the holiday average. So with liquor stores, we saw that there was an average of 218% increase in foot traffic the 5 days leading up to Christmas. That's likely because people want to consume that, and people also love to give, alcohol and beverages, adult beverages, as gifts. So interestingly, though, Christmas Eve is still showing a high foot traffic volume to a lot of categories. And again, this is probably as shoppers are making their final rounds to gather food and drink and last minute gifts. Peak visitation among last minute shoppers also are seen to dollar stores and pharmacies, and that's occurring on Christmas Eve, or did last year. I personally, on a personal note, would think this is probably because people are getting those last minute stocking stuffers. I am guilty of that. So contrary to Thanksgiving, the winter holidays are definitely more centered around gift giving rather than just food. So it's going to make a little bit more sense that shoppers are going to lean more towards those stores that carry a great selection of both. So they can go ahead and mark off those multiple last minute items. Awesome. Okay, so how do we get our right message in front of the right big box and grocery audience for people that are businesses in this vertical? We again have those 3 different audiences. So we have a meal prepper. We have, again, the convenience driven shopper. That's me. And then the dinner guest. So each can be targeted in a way that makes the most sense based on their needs. So for like a meal prepper is likely to be out and about. We're seeing high visitation and high movement from these audiences. They're buying online, also in store. So leveraging something like GroundTruth's high movement audiences is a great way to target these users. These are actually first-party audience segments of device IDs whose devices indicate that they've been at active levels at near pre-shutdown visitation levels. So they're out, they're about, they're comfortable, they're still going to the retailers, the restaurants, the bars, the things like that. For dinner guests, though, targeting curbside audiences and reaching those shoppers with hyper-relevant messaging based on previous behaviors is a really good strategy as well. They might be needing to pick up a side or pick up something quickly to take to dinner. Cool. So our next vertical we're going to look into is restaurant. One of my favorites. I love to eat. Who doesn't? The dining experience has certainly been reimagined across the board for restaurant categories this year. I think QSRs, we're actually in a better position compared to casual dining and fine dining, but everyone in this category has had to adjust at some point. So indoor dining may be off the table, so to speak, in certain geographic regions. And however, we're still seeing that available in some markets. But where we're seeing growth is in outdoor dining. We see an increase in delivery support, which I'll talk to here in a second, pickup options, and then certain restaurants and brands putting out more of a marketplace formula for people to go and buy in store and then utilize those same favorite meals and make them at home. So most noticeable growth has been seen in support of delivery apps such as Grubhub, right, who actually saw a 35% growth year over year. They saw 7 million active users in March alone. It's actually forecasted that the number of smartphone delivery app users will rise 25% this year. That is totally understandable. And 80% of consumers do expect to celebrate at least some holidays differently, but 40% expect to celebrate all of the holidays differently through the remainder of the year. So that's interesting. Again, we can come in here and create a new and unique creative message to get in front of that end consumer based on what capabilities your business or your client's business is currently offering. So if you are doing dine-in, letting people know that. If you are only doing curbside pickup, letting that be your option. So really tailoring that messaging specifically to what's available to let people know during the holidays. So if we're focused on who's going to be dining. So the millennial behavioral audience that drove the largest shift in visitation to restaurants overall throughout the 2019 holiday season last year, we're actually seeing the baby boomers above all other age groups saw a higher spike in visitation on key dates. So what I mean is while millennials did see higher increases on average to restaurant categories on Thanksgiving, baby boomers had a 28% higher index of visiting restaurants. Christmas Eve, they saw 37% higher visitation. Christmas saw 36% higher index for baby boomers, and New Year's had a 31% index for visitation compared to holiday average. And this is again for baby boomers. So yes, while indoor eating guidelines are still subject to change and are going to be TBD in some areas, the key audiences with historical trends to dine out are really great candidates to still target and leverage and advertise to for different types of services. So like I mentioned, indoor dining where available, offering takeout and delivery, but also catering too. Taking a look at 2019 dining behaviors, some of the highlights that I just want to mention here. For example, Black Friday shoppers were more likely to shop at fast casual restaurants like a California Pizza Kitchen or a Cheesecake Factory to fuel up. So that's 53% greater than compared to that holiday average. And I think this is likely due to wanting to continue that experience. They're out there with family, they're with friends, they're shopping. They had an early start likely. So they want to take some time and refuel and do it in a way that, again, creates that experience rather than hitting up a QSR, right? So fine dining category also peaked the 2 weekends prior to Christmas. And again, the train of thought could be that couples and or families are wanting to get together and do something special for the holidays to treat themselves or utilize that experience as a gift rather than giving something tangible, right? Notable is also foot traffic to QSRs, which in December 2019 peaked the Friday prior to Christmas at a 38% above average. The thought process here is that people are out doing their last minute shopping. They got to get it done. And they're hitting up a QSR quick, dirty, and easy to recharge while they're out and about. So what do we take with all of those different trends and strategies? We've outlined again the 3 different types of diners that you should be targeting or thinking about targeting this year. You have the spirited diner, you have a convenience-driven diner, again, that's me, and then the holiday traveler. So each audience, again, is going to have a bit of a different approach in getting that right message in front of them. So for example, location-based audiences for holiday travelers, right? So if we know that they're loyalists of Red Robin, for example, as a casual restaurant, and they're loyalists there at home, they're likely going to pick that as a familiar spot while they're out on the road visiting family and friends and traveling. And behavioral audiences would be a great one to leverage for the spirited diners who we know are foodies and or are the audiences we've been talking about, like the baby boomers who have shown that higher pattern of visitation in past years on key dates like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So finally, let's look at travel and tourism. So it's definitely not on everyone's agenda this year, but there's still many who will be sticking close by. And that's great, but we shouldn't overlook this as a category because we will see some movement, and we'll talk about that here. But travel plans are grounded. We're seeing less traveling. People that are going to be traveling will be doing so in smaller gatherings with only immediate family or really, really close friends. And some are going to be doing virtual celebrations as well. So it's not surprising we're seeing that, but 35% of people say that they won't be traveling at all for any gatherings or celebrations this year. So sticking close to home. And then 18% of people are actually going to be utilizing some type of virtual Zoom or Google or whatever to help, to celebrate, right? Rather than in person. So with all that said, we do still see a peak in certain behavioral audiences during the holiday months. And there's a few that we want to highlight because we still think that they're in 2020 going to represent these types of behaviors of being more prone to getting out and about and traveling, whether that's planned and or last minute. So the key audiences for travel and tourism to engage are car renters. And we'll talk about that for a few reasons, but we see spikes in visitation to travel hubs for this particular audience during holiday months. So 2.3 times higher than on average. The next one would be leisure travelers. These types of individuals tend to have their bags packed, ready to go, and are seen in travel hubs 54% more than other audiences like the frequent traveler or the business traveler during the holiday timeframes, that is. And then finally, an outdoor enthusiast. So these are consumers or people that are fiending to get away. So we definitely see visitation rates climb 57% above average for this particular behavioral audience as well. Another key audience that we don't want to miss out on reaching are entertainment enthusiasts. And we see that 67% increase in this particular behavioral audience make up the travel categories during the holiday months. So definitely awesome ways to get in front of and leverage these particular audiences to get your message in front of them. Okay, so 2019 travel behaviors. So what we saw, behaviors of travelers in 2019 showcased that visitation to airports, car rental, and commuter rail systems were definitely low on those key holidays, specifically Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year. However, we did see a spike in each week leading up to these holidays as people are trying to get to where they need to go in time for Thanksgiving, in time for Christmas Eve. This year, with travel restrictions and safety concerns in place, visitation to airports and train stations specifically will continue to be heavily impacted, as we saw during 2020 summer months when COVID spiked again in a lot of places. With that said, though, car rental categories, interestingly enough, are seeing nearly the same levels of visitation that they did in 2019. And this is because consumers are still wanting to get out and about, but they want to do it in a safe way, right? And there's, like we said, locale is going to play a part in, where people are traveling. So it might be feeder markets, it might be a day or two drive. We're not going cross country this year, but we will still see that, or we still definitely see car renters and car renter categories, behavioral audience, and then categorical audiences still doing really well. So again, how do we prepare to reach those that are on the move this holiday season? We've got 3 different audience segments pop for 2020. We got the deal-inspired adventurer, we have the homeward bound traveler, and the snowbird. So with the deal-inspired adventurer, who will likely be comprised of those who historically are motivated to travel, like we mentioned, the leisure traveler, the outdoor enthusiast, they're going on a whim. Reaching them with deals and specials based on what's up and coming is a great way to interact and engage that audience. Also doing cross-device targeting as well. It's going to extend that reach and amplify your message. It's a great way to get your message in front of them, especially if you're trying to do travel and tourism, where you can showcase a lot of different types of scenery and image and video content really plays well within this vertical. So with homeward bound travelers, getting that message in front of the custom audiences who are comprised of certain attributes and or behaviors, and reaching them as they're headed home. And finally, last but not least, the snowbird. So these are people that are flocking to warmer weather during the notoriously cold months of the year. No brainer here is utilizing our weather triggering. So because we own the app WeatherBug, we have access to all of their really cool, nifty tech. So you can utilize weather triggering to showcase deals on sunny and tropical getaways or spas in Arizona or whatever to those where snow is actually in the forecast. Get their attention and get them ready to go. Awesome. Okay. So I know that was a lot of information. We were on a time frame. I kind of blew through it, but I definitely wanted to leave this open for Q&A for those that came. Thanks, Stuart. Good to see you. You come to a lot of these. I always appreciate when you're here. Yes. So one of the questions is, we are going to be submitting this recording to all of the participants that signed up. So whether you're here now and you just want to go through this again, or if you want to share it with friends that weren't able to attend or colleagues, it will be recorded, or it is being recorded. So we will get this to you. And again, for those that missed it in the beginning, you're going to get 1 sheets of restaurant, retail, big box retailers and grocery, as well as travel and tourism. They're each going to be 1 sheets with all of this information and more. I couldn't even cover everything within those one sheets, as well as the strategies that we outlined. So you can really see those and be able to leverage them and input them into the system. But all of that's coming afterwards. So don't fret, that is coming your way. I'm going to take a second. I know Evelyn's been doing a great job of answering your questions. Let me just read through to make sure that there's nothing that I missed. Okay, it looks like most questions have been answered. Was there anything else, anything that stuck out, or again, you have questions about in terms of how to apply these within Ads Manager? I'm happy to help answer those questions. And again, if you're not comfortable asking those right now, we can absolutely have a conversation offline. You can email us at adexpert@groundtruth.com or reach out to your dedicated account executive and or platform specialist. We're happy to talk through any and all questions, whether it relates to this specifically, or again, how to apply some of this data and some of these audiences into Ads Manager. So I did a lot of talking, and I don't see anything populating quite yet. For the rest of the panelists on the phone, did you guys have anything that you wanted to share, any input? Totally fine if not. Okay, so again, we really appreciate your time today. I'm giving you a little bit of back of your day to go and share this with friends, with family, with colleagues, whoever. And again, feel free to reach out to us. You will be receiving the recording. You will be receiving the one sheets that have all of the information cited. But we're really just so glad that you were here today. Thank you for listening to me. Please make sure that you do fill out that poll that we have up on the screen, so we can continue to do better in the future as we continue to host these. We're just appreciative to be here and for your partnership and your time today. So again, thank you all. My name is Mary Claire Hitson, and it's been a joy, and enjoy your Wednesday.